You're listening to the True North Success Podcast. Real stories of personal, professional, and financial wins from Alberta's best. With your hosts, Gary Ma and Amy Kim.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today my special guest is Vivek Warrior. He is a partner at a major law firm in Calgary where his practice focuses on helping energy companies through the complexities of mergers and acquisitions, development projects, and renewable energy partnerships throughout Canada. It is my pleasure to have Vivek Warrior on the show today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
So Vivek, I gave a quick overview of your successes, but can you fill in the details of what your business is all about, who you serve, and how long you've been doing this for?
Sure. I'll start with the last question, Gary. I've been doing this for almost 25 years now. I think my 25th anniversary of being called to the bar in Alberta will come in August of 2026. For most of that time, I have been serving the energy industry here in Western Canada generally. As you might imagine, over time, that's really diversified in terms of what that means. So early in my career, it was very much focused on upstream oil and gas work, particularly here in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and BC, energy infrastructure project development, and mergers and acquisitions for companies in those respective spaces. Over time, as you might imagine, that's really grown to include all kinds of matters that we would place under the broader umbrella of energy transition, such as renewables, solar and wind being the most straightforward of those, but now hydrogen development, carbon capture and sequestration developments, and various new forms of energy or new approaches to forms of energy along those lines.
Right. Well, I mean, congratulations on 25 years calling to the bar.
Just saying it makes me feel absurdly old.
So tell me a little bit more about like what got you into becoming a lawyer type of thing, and how did you get into the energy sector?
Yeah, I think I always had becoming a lawyer kind of in the back of my mind, and was very interested growing up in public policy and the history around that, and the history around our Constitution and the framework of laws that flow from it. And ultimately, I think also recognized that my undergrad in poli-sci and history wasn't necessarily, a ticket to prosperity. So,
Right.
all those different drivers kind of took me to the law, and just absolutely fell in love with the subject matter during law school. Never necessarily thought I would be an energy lawyer and a corporate lawyer. Generally, I thought for a long time that I would be on the litigation side of things.
Okay.
Kind of enjoyed the public speaking and the debating aspect of that. But when I started practicing, I very much kind of was drawn to the consensus building aspect of corporate transactions, where really you're
Okay.
trying to get the two parties who are trying to do something that is of mutual benefit,
Yeah.
trying to get them to the same goal line.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that aspect of problem solving and finding solutions that bridge the gap between two different parties who are really trying to do something, as I said, that's mutually beneficial was what really kind of drew that to me. It drew me to it, and it was also, I think, something that resonated with my approach and my skill set generally.
Nice, nice. So would you say, like that kind of sets you apart from the competition, type of thing? Like, is that what comes easy to you, that others might find challenging?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is an aspect of legal practice where people might feel like they have to be adversarial and prove to everybody that they're the smartest person in the room. And I find
Hmm.
that, quite frankly, counterproductive in most negotiations and most transactions, where again, what we're really trying to achieve is a consensus where both parties are satisfied they're getting what they need. And it's, as with all negotiations, it's the art of compromise at the end of the day. So
Right.
I would say though, I'm very blessed to have practiced in Calgary my whole career, Alberta my whole career, where that there's a practicality to how the energy bar in Alberta approaches transactions, whether it's M&A or project development, where people do want to work together and are focused, as you might expect in Alberta, on the entrepreneurial aspect of, hey, let's get the deal done.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you'll definitely find less of what I talked about earlier, where a lawyer might just be trying to raise obstacles to a deal, or again trying to prove how smart they are. You find less of that in Alberta
Okay.
generally, in at least on the corporate transactional side.
Right. 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 So it's really trying to figure out how to make it work for both sides.
Exactly, for both sides, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
we try to, I think, certainly myself, try to operate on the metric where I'm not going to raise a problem without also having thought through some solutions that could again get everybody to where they want to be.
Right. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean that's fantastic information for anybody who wants to be a better lawyer type of thing, who really achieves at making things work. What kind of tips or suggestions would you give someone who wants to be more successful?
I think it is kind of the things we've talked about already, but I spend a lot of time, and I have spent a lot of time in my career mentoring younger lawyers and people coming up in the profession, and I think generally, I tend to tell them the distillation of all that we've talked about already, Gary, is
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
there's no upside to being, the adversarial guy.
Right.
You are there to obviously zealously represent your client's interests, but at the end of the day, you can do that while still having some kind of understanding of where the other side is coming from. And again, it's about building that bridge, building that consensus. And I think again, because young people might develop, whether it's from TV or social media or even their experience in law school, the idea that it's supposed to be pound the table
Right. Yeah.
and try and extract as much from the other side as you can, but when really the most fulfilling work that I've done is when people are collaborative and cooperative and again working to achieve that objective that both parties want.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very good. Like being a team player, really working on, trying to get the solution.
I think that's right. And, there's two aspects to it, I would say, from again, person coming into the profession is one, what we try to cultivate here at Osler, and I'm sure other firms would say the same thing, is we're trying to create a team environment where everybody feels supported, and they feel like the firm is trying to put them in the best position to be the best lawyer that they can and to flourish in the profession. Well, similarly, you have to build that environment, I think, and that culture internally. I think if you're successful in doing that, I think your lawyers on your team will also be more inclined not to see the other side as the enemy,
Hmm.
and again, try to come to an understanding of how each party can achieve uh, the objectives that they need.
Right, right, right. What's one of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome in your career, and how were you able to turn that into a positive?
I think, I mean, there's lots of challenges, I think, in a legal
Yeah,
career.
yeah.
I think one of the things that in a transactional practice that people, including myself, sometimes struggle with from just emotional wellness perspective is it is very cyclical.
Okay.
So when you're busy, you are very busy, and there's lots going on, and when you are not, it's kind of terrifying, and you wonder whether, you'll ever be hired again. And I think it's a matter of time and experience to develop the understanding that uh, and to understand the rhythms of what this type of transactional practice looks like. And so you can, understand that when things slow down, your reaction to that should be, take a vacation, spend some time with your family. Don't just
Right.
wallow and you know, uh, curl up in fetal position and all of a sudden start thinking that your career is over. And I think that, that will resonate with a lot of lawyers in your audience. I think that is a very common feeling in the profession.
Right. Well, I mean, especially in Alberta, where we go through deep cycles.
These huge cycles, absolutely.
Like, yeah, like huge cycles, when the going's good, it's going really well. And
Yep,
then when when the bottom falls out, it's dry.
absolutely. Like when I started my career, there was no end of work on the corporate transactional side, the energy side in Alberta generally, but oil prices fluctuate. And when they, went down in 2003, 2004, a lot of activity ceased. And I was a very young lawyer at that time, and it was concerning, of
Yeah.
course. But, I
Yeah.
think the firm I worked with at the time, and I think most firms would take this view, is, we don't let, immediately when things slow down, let talented people out the door because we want to make sure that we know it's cyclical. So when we get busy again, we need those people. So I
Hmm.
think,
Hmm.
the profession in Alberta and in the Calgary market has been very kind of prescient and far thinking in that regard, and very much think of young people coming into the profession as your number one asset. That is your a law firm is an aggregation of talented human beings, and
Yeah.
you have to constantly keep adding to that and nurturing that, or you're not going to be successful. But yeah, and then we went through a period where there was massive foreign investment coming into the oil sands, as you will well remember, from
Yeah.
uh, China, East Asia generally, all over the place, Europe as well, and the United States, of course. And then we went through a cycle where all those big players, international players, exited, and
Yes.
you develop, I think, um, an understanding, obviously both of how the sector and the business works, but also of the fact that these things now, for example, now we're talking about all those people coming back and reinvesting in the Western Canadian Sedimentary Basin. So, yeah, there's no other word for it than cyclical at the end of the day.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. So really, being able to adjust and maybe plan. I don't know if you can really plan all that well, but I mean, that's one thing to consider, right?
I mean, the planning element is to, I think, understand and have it in your mind that there are going to be cycles like this. There are going to be busy times. There are going to be leaner times, and the old saying, you make hay while the sun is shining, and then when you get a break, take the break.
Yeah.
For
Right.
your own mental
Right.
and physical health, for sure.
Yeah. So it sounds like things are going really well for you and your business. A lot of lawyers and professionals are making very, very good incomes when they're actively working. The challenge is that when they're not consulting or actively working, there's no income coming in. So that can definitely be a bit of a challenge for like a professional like yourself who wants to keep their income level high, especially when looking towards the future, when they don't want to be working so hard for that income. Some might be looking at different ways to create profits and income outside of work. Things like maybe investing in stocks, bonds, crypto, or using like a financial planner or something like that. What are your thoughts about, something like that, ways of creating income outside of your work?
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand, and I've worked very hard to become an expert in my field.
Yep.
And I think that, as a result of that, you also come to an understanding of, for example, businesses that operate in the energy sector, but I am not an expert on investing generally or investing in other sectors. And so I personally thought it was essential to have, a very strong financial advisor, somebody I knew I could trust, who understood what mine and my wife's financial objectives were, and to be able to provide that timely advice, that far-reaching and far-thinking advice to be able to achieve those goals long term. Because, as you have alluded to, Gary, nobody wants to work forever, and I think the sooner you can start preparing for that, the better.
Right, right, right. So, I mean, getting involved with a financial planner or investing in other types like non-active type income can definitely help.
I think absolutely, and my own view is in Alberta, so much of the economic activity is tied up in the energy industry. So I think diversifying for myself was very important, and to expose myself to different sectors, and ensure there was a balance there, so that we could smooth out some of those cycles we've been talking about.
Right, right, right. As we're wrapping up our interview, what kind of exciting plans do you have in the works in the next 6 to 12 months?
I mean, I think it's an incredibly exciting time um, for the energy industry, energy lawyers in Canada, for a couple of different reasons. One is, again, we've talked about how, like, the spectrum of what we are talking about when we're talking about energy development,
Hmm.
it has dramatically amplified over the years, and you know we're working on renewables projects across the country, whether it's offshore wind or solar projects in different parts of the country. I think a really exciting development in the past 5 to 7 years is how the trend has become that proponents of energy projects are partnering with First Nations and
Okay.
consortiums
Yeah.
of First Nations,
Yeah.
where those Indigenous communities have a seat at the table, an ownership interest in the project, long-term revenue stream that comes out of the project. That's a very exciting trend that I think will drive prosperity for our Indigenous communities across the country, as well as help uh, incentivize further helpful development of, like, necessary infrastructure. And I think, the federal government having the change to a government that is very much focused on developing essential infrastructure and ensuring that Canadians and Canadian businesses have access to different markets. I think that is a sea change in terms of what we've been seeing for the past decade, and I think it's
Yeah.
as a result, we're all very excited that it will drive a lot of investment from different parts of the world, as we've seen in past cycles.
Yeah. 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 I mean, that does sound pretty exciting. Um, as we, I guess, we wrap this up and want to thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights and tips with us. It was a real pleasure having you on the show. And Vivek, if people want to connect with you, what should they do?
Oh, I think the easiest thing is, look me up on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find, or through our Osler Hoskin Harcourt website. My contact information is all there.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gary. It was a fun conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Want to share your success story? Apply to be a guest at truenorthsuccessshow.com/guest. We'd love to hear from you.